Hey, there is a new company out there on the forefront of passwords. We're going to talk about that and a few other things, of course, today. Hi, everybody. Craig Peterson here. The biggest problem pretty much all of us have has to do with our passwords. What we're doing with them, how often we're changing them, how we are storing them. It is being used for quite a few things out there. Right now, we're seeing a real emphasis on a term you might not have heard before. It's cloud jacking. This is where someone gains access to your cloud services and then does nefarious things with them. What do you expect them to do? Now, what does this all mean? It means if you are using something like maybe you're using Salesforce.com, maybe you have online banking with your bank. Most people do. There are so many cloud services that we use nowadays. And cloud jacking is where someone gains access to that online account. You might ask, how do they do that? How do they gain access to it? The simplest and most common way of doing it is something called password stuffing. Now, I know I'm throwing a lot of terms out there for everybody, but basically cloud jacking means that a cloud service is being used without your permission, your cloud service. So again, think about clouds as just a word for somebody else's computer that you have no control over. Cloud services, generally speaking, are dangerous. Now, I know a whole lot of people who think, I don't know much about computers. I'm probably a lot better off having some third party manage my computers for me. And so I'll just go to Amazon or I'll go to Microsoft or IBM or whomever and have them run my server for me. And in fact, that's what most companies are doing nowadays. Initially, it looked like it was going to save them money. It was going to be a big savings because you didn't have to maintain that data center anymore. You didn't have to have the personnel who you knew the systems, who did the updates and stuff. In reality, that's turned out not to be true. Most of the slightly bigger businesses, the smaller to mid-size, are moving their stuff out of the cloud because of cloud jacking, because of all of the supposed expenses that were going to be saved, not only not being saved, but because they don't have control over their computer anymore, and they don't have control over the network, because remember, cloud is somebody else. It's their computer, it's their network, and it's something you have very little control over. So they're moving it back into their business. I think that makes a whole lot of sense. In the meantime, we have many more businesses that are saying you cannot buy our software anymore. You have to use it in the cloud. You have to use our cloud license, which to me is just frankly mind-boggling. Now, I can see how it makes it simpler for them because they only have to have one version of software, maybe two or three, as they're working on development, and they can roll it out a little bit more slowly. They don't have to worry about people having problems with Windows, which is always a nightmare. We're trying to support, because when it comes to Windows, Microsoft themselves tell you don't run more than one app, one service on that machine. We can't guarantee it. It's not going to work. And then you have to pay them $300 when there's a problem, and that $300 doesn't go very far because they don't guarantee they'll solve that problem. So all of these things have led us to moving to the cloud, and now some moving back away from the cloud, and our cloud servers and our cloud services that we're using in our businesses are being hijacked. Now, I mentioned that one of the things that these hijackers are doing to take over is something called credential stuffing. Another one is phishing. We're not going to talk a lot about phishing right now, but you probably know this already. It's where you get an email that looks legitimate. It's from somebody that looks legitimate, but in fact, it's trying to get you to do something that is going to now give them access to your systems. And in fact, that's what happened to a buddy of mine. I've talked about him before just a couple of weeks ago. He lost his whole paycheck. It's gone, and he's not getting it back, and the company's not going to reimburse him for it, which is really a shame, frankly. So what's credential stuffing? It's something that's being used for quite a while. In fact, way back when, they used to use credential stuffing to try like the 1,000, 10,000 most recent passwords, or most popular passwords. Now, that's a problem, isn't it? What is it? Why are they doing it? Back when life was simpler and people used password as their password, or ABC123, or the whole top of the keyboard, there were only a few thousand, maybe 10, 20,000 passwords that were in common use. And we've gotten way smarter since then, haven't we? No, we haven't. And I would ask right now that you just take a minute and you go online to haveibeenpwned.com. And you can type into Have I Been Pwned your email address, and it'll tell you if it found it anywhere on the internet. So not just on the internet, but more or less on the dark web, on the dark internet. But there's another feature on Have I Been Pwned, is spelled P-W-N-E-D. Have I Been Pwned? And that's the Passwords tab. So if you click the Password tab here, it's saying that right now they have a database of 613 million real-world passwords that have been previously exposed in data breaches. And obviously this exposure makes them unsuitable for ongoing use. Why does it make it unsuitable? Let's type in right now. We're going to type in we're going to just get fancy. SW0RD. So it's a great password, right? Because it's password with an @ sign instead of an A and a 0 instead of an O. So we're going to type this in and hit return. Now let's see what it says. Oh my gosh. This password has been seen almost 55,000 times before, okay? So it's not such a great password out there. It has been breached in data breaches and should never be used. If you've ever used it anywhere before, change it. And it's going through giving you this list. There are a lot of places. Yeah, 55,000 times it's been used. So check it out. Go there, check it out. Make sure your password that you're using hasn't been used before. And the question is why? That's where we get into our problem with credential stuffing. What they'll do is they will use your email address and your passwords that they found online, and then they'll try and log in to critical websites like your bank, for instance. We mentioned the bank. So they will try and break into your bank account because they've got your email address and they've got your password. That's what credential stuffing is all about. So they'll just try it across all kinds of different websites until they can get in. So this ties back into our cloud jacking problem. And with cloud jacking, they just go to these online services. Again, it's like your bank or might be Salesforce to get access to your client information, or QuickBooks maybe. There's a whole lot of them out there. And they'll try and log in as you. Now, most of these websites have controls on this. So they limit the number of times you can try and log in. So the bad guys know this, and they know their ways around it. And some of the ways are just to do it really fast. Some of the ways are to do it from different IP addresses. And they do that using, of course, hijacked computers, called botnets. People's home computers, business computers, they use them to do their dirty work for them. And now they have control over your systems. Multi-factor authentication. That's something I go into in some detail in my Improving Windows Security course that's coming up. So if you need more information, that's the place to get it. If you want to find out how to sign up, make sure you just go to craigpeterson.com and sign up for the newsletter. I'll let you know when that course is ready. Karen and I are finishing it up now. There's just been too much stuff going on, so I apologize. It's been taking a little longer than I had hoped it would take, but it'll be out pretty soon. But multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication is really becoming a standard, and you're foolish if you don't need it. Microsoft, Google, and others have been trying to do away with passwords entirely with some whole new technology, which is going back and forth. It may come into play, it might not. We'll see how it all goes. There's been some adoption, but it certainly has not been universal. But multi-factor authentication absolutely is universally adopted. So when we get back, we'll talk a little bit more about this. What does it mean, this two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication? How can it stop our cloud accounts from getting hijacked, which is really big? Then we're going to get into Chrome and Edge, a brand new feature designed to help you with this very problem. You're listening to Craig Peterson, and of course, that's where you'll find me online, craigpeterson.com.